I would joke that I would go home and just cry in a bathtub every night because I was just so overwhelmed. I'd come to set.
And your job is to know your lines.
And my job is to know my lines and to know what I'm supposed to do in the scene.
Yeah.
And I'd look around and I'd see that. And then the room would start to close in.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Fight, flight.
I mean, I didn't know I was having panic attacks, but I was basically having panic attacks at the time.
Yeah. I'm David Duchovny, and this is Fail Better, a show where failure, not success, shapes who we are. Emily Deschanel is an actor who spent more than a decade of her life playing the brilliant and blunt Dr. Temperance Brennan on the hit Fox series Bones. The show was one of the most widely recognized crime dramas of all time and remains a popular comfort watch today. Emily currently co-hosts a rewatch podcast called Boneheads. The critically acclaimed show is loosely based on the novels and career of forensic anthropologist and author Kathy Reichs. It's often credited for helping inspire women to pursue STEM careers, which was rare to see on TV at the time. Emily grew up a theater kid in a family full of stars. I remember working with her dad, Caleb, who was a highly respected cinematographer, but I worked with him as a director on Twin Peaks, on one of my very first projects that I did. We talk about the success of a 12-season run, plus how she advocated for herself and navigated parenting through it. Here's our conversation. When were you diagnosed with ADHD and or dyslexia?
And dyslexia. I think I was 11. Yeah.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of people my age did not get diagnosed, especially girls.
Right. Sure.
Did not get diagnosed. Anyways, we don't need to talk about that.
No, we do. This is very interesting. My mother was a first grade teacher, second grade teacher. My sister is a grade school teacher. I come from a family of people that taught younger people how to read.
Yeah.
So my mother was my mother began teaching in like 1975, 76, around then. And that was before, I think they knew what dyslexia was, but it was before it was frequently diagnosed. Usually kids would get left behind if they were dyslexic because they just didn't seem to be keeping up with the other students. But my mother was a big champion of kids who had trouble learning to read. And she would come up with all different kinds of schemes to reach different kids because not everybody learns the same way. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I went to a million different schools. So even in Los Angeles.
That seems like an exaggeration to me. I just have to say, I don't want you to.
No, every day I would change halfway through. I went to a different school. I drive to another town every day. No, it was probably like 7 or something. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for elementary.
This was all in L.A.?
No. I was in San Francisco, L.A., off the coast of Africa and the Seychelles, and then in London.
Is that because your dad was shooting something in Africa?
So I think it's also, you don't have the consistency of being at the same school where people realize, something's going on.
Right, they get to know you in depth. They don't.
Yeah, they're kind of, I was halfway through some years. I probably, in part because I was dealing with that. I went to a Catholic school. My mom took me out halfway through a year. It was kind of dramatic when you think back.
Very dramatic.
Yeah, but I think they were pretty strict and they didn't get me. But yeah, it was this. My memory serves, it was the American school in London that I just met someone who went there. Lots of people. Kathleen Turner went there because I worked with her and we realized we both went there. Great school in London. They realized and they had me tested. And then they had support for reading. And I went to like the special reading class.
So how does your dyslexia appear to you? You just flip letters?
Now it's pretty, it was fairly minor. I think my ADHD, I experience much more in my daily life now. Mm-hmm. I think the dyslexia, I'm sure it takes me a lot longer to read things, but, and I like listening to things on tape a lot of times if I'm reading a book.
So auditory processing.
But I'm not good with auditory. I mean, according to the testing,
really?
I do not do well with auditory processing, but for whatever reason,
like it.
I prefer it,
I know that on Bones you had, reams of technical dialogue. So that must have been actually your nightmare come true. When I think of you now as a reader and as somebody who's trying to not put the phonetic or whatever, these long words that could easily, because you don't know them, could easily flip letters around. It would sound exactly the same to you.
Yeah. I mean, it was a challenge. The first season was the most challenging to me. I mean, you've been on first seasons of shows. It's insane already.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that once I figured out a system, once they gave me someone to help me run lines.
So when you
that was really helpful.
This is interesting because I'm about to go do a couple of jobs, and I'm I like to memorize my shit like way in advance and then forget it.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
Like that's my ultimate. I mean, in television, impossible.
That's great. You can't do it.
Impossible. So the night before, you're getting the second salmon goldenrod revisions, and you're like, holy shit, there's a monologue here that explains the entire show.
Right. And this is really important, and I gotta memorize it. We didn't have late night, almost never on Bones. That was the agreement. Hart Hanson, who you know. He also said, we won't give you something last minute, 24 hours kind of thing. And you agreed to not do that to us either. Like, we won't as actors come to them and say, hey, the scene isn't working for me. Oh. Can you change something about it? And so we kind of had a mutual agreement, which is kind of unheard of in TV.
Yeah, that is unheard of.
So we didn't have that, but I realized I had done jobs before doing Bones where I would learn my lines in advance, I learned I had to learn them the day before, and somehow I would the last ones would go out of my mind, and I would learn the new lines, and
it's very muscular at that point.
Yes.
I think the brain just adapts to that kind of a thing. But I'm realizing, when I'm memorizing these things for jobs coming up, I never speak the words out loud until I get to set.
Whoa.
I don't learn them out loud. And in fact, I don't process them well as memory if I speak them out loud.
That's blowing my mind.
I just look at them and look at them and look at them and look at them.
Yeah. I think David Boreanaz is probably like that, because he could look at a page and just be like, and he'd also he'd played a character when we were working together that very much didn't have to say the words verbatim. My character spoke in a very specific way, and I had to say them exactly as written.
You were speaking science.
I was speaking science. I also came from because I went to conservatory where playwright is king.
Yeah.
This was learn the lines.
Shakespeare.
We were doing Shakespeare. We're doing Chekhov. We're doing Ibsen. So we, I would not ever ask to change and especially playing Brennan, the lines were as written. But David Boreanaz could just look and then do the scene. He spent time looking at them too. I don't mean to minimize.
I'm sure he looked at it at home beforehand.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think like in a pinch, he could do that where he'd look at it and be able to do the scene. But no, I can't imagine, because I guess also I'm thinking of most of my career has been playing the scientist. So I have to get my mouth around the words.
Yes, I
know. If you have to say, epiphyseal fusion or zygomatic arch or...
I was just saying that the other day.
It just comes up in conversation all the time. It just comes up in conversation. So you have to get I have to get my mouth around them. So that's shocking that you don't have to say them out loud.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I also have this and I'm trying to deal with it my entire career, is just when we were talking here beforehand, I want it to be rolling, because I want the first time. I always want the first time. So I don't want it to be going over it.
Right.
I don't even like to rehearse before we shoot.
Yeah.
I like to rehearse a month ago.
Right.
Whatever. But when we're here, I like to let the lightning in a bottle try to happen. I mean,
I hear that.
And of course, you can do that on film because you can make a mistake. It's okay. You can just go again. What I wanted to do.
Oh yeah, your experiment or whatever you want. Oh no.
It's an experiment because you're an actor, and I thought, do you know the story? Like when Marlon Brando did Last Tango in Paris, when he did he had a famous monologue. His wife has died,
right,
and he's found out that she's been having an affair with the landlord. And he's heartbroken because she's dead, and he's heartbroken because she's been unfaithful to him. And he does this incredibly interesting monologue to her corpse. The actress is lying there in the scene.
I'm like trying to remember if I've even seen that movie.
You don't have to have seen it, but
I saw it. It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, not when you were a kid. You didn't see this when you were a kid. I'm hoping
maybe teenager, 20.
So Bertolucci, who I believe is the director, he had this long,
I think so,
oneer shot that he wanted to do it in. And Brando apparently showed up not exactly word perfect.
He would get the lines in his
eventually,
earpiece, right?
eventually.
Yeah, this was younger.
But
yeah.
here's the genius of Brando in this particular instance is he said, apparently could be an apocryphal story. He said, write my monologue on big cue cards like Saturday Night Live or whatever.
Yeah.
He didn't say Saturday Night Live because it didn't exist yet, but he had his monologue written on cue cards.
Right.
But here's the genius part of Brando. He said, shuffle them and then place them around. Because he knew the order, more or less. He knew the sense of it.
Right.
So when you go back and you look
over
at
here,
it just looks like he's thinking. He's like, he'll say, he'll get through one bit and then he'll go, oh, there it is. And then he'd say that part.
Does knowing this ruin that
No, not
scene
at all.
for you?
It makes it,
okay.
I like it even more. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take my notes.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to shuffle them first.
And just put them in wherever. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll look at
I was
them.
Ready to be reading dialogue.
Well, it could get there. And what I wanted to do is give you these 3 cards.
Okay. Are these my answers?
These are you to fill. Just write down one question per card. It has a prompt on one of them.
Oh, okay. Wait, okay.
The prompt is that.
Do I read the prompt?
Yeah, just read. You can read the prompt to yourself or to me. What does it say? You can't read my handwriting is the problem.
I am at the age now where I have to do this to read. But I can't.
You know what?
What would you want?
You don't have to fix your eyes. You only have to lengthen your arms. It's much easier.
I'm at the point where I need to fix the eyes and lengthen the arms. Okay, wait. Ask questions for you.
No, just a question. Whatever. No, you don't. You can ask a question to me if that's what's on your mind. But just a question. Just a question. It could have to do with failure or not. It doesn't have to do with failure.
Oh my gosh.
I don't mean to bring proceedings to a screeching halt here.
No, it's okay.
But I seem to have. And then we're going to reshuffle everything. And then at times when I look down, maybe I'll just look at what.
Okay.
Because here's why. This is what I was thinking this morning.
I like it. I'm good with it.
I'm a person that likes to do things well. And I think that gets in my way sometimes.
Yeah.
So I have these ideas that, this podcast or any podcast or any discussion should have some kind of form. It should, like we're talking about the song, it should go to a resolution.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to let go of that a little bit because it's like saying earlier about rehearsal. It's like I'm trying to let a little magic or loss or or mistake in or something fucked up. So you're going to be the guinea pig.
I like it. I'm the same way.
You are?
Yes.
You want to shuffle those index cards?
I want things to be controlled. I guess that's not exactly what you're saying. You want it to be good or
no, but control is part of that because I'm trying to control it into being good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. If I can just control it, if I can just do this one thing, if I can ask this right question at this time, and it can come to, this conclusion, then it will be good.
And as I've been having discussions about success and failure, I realize that so much of my life and people's lives is consumed with getting it right,
Yeah.
And getting it right is often, that's fine. Getting it right is fine, but getting it wrong can be so much more interesting. And that as an actor too.
Yeah.
we're not talking about you getting the scientific words wrong. That's no good for anybody.
Right.
But you've been involved in scenes on sets where shit goes wrong and it's the best stuff you've ever done.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've definitely messed things up. I've definitely failed in different ways or fallen short of the mark in so many ways. Yeah.
All right. Well, what is your response in those times? Is it to kind of retreat into the shell of control and go, okay, this time, I fucked up. I'm going to get it good this time. Or does it, in my experience, it kind of lets all this air into the room,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everybody's breathing deeper. Okay. We're all human. That was kind of cool. Now it brings a different sense into the next take.
Well, I think of, I went to this conservatory for college. I had a teacher, Bill Young, and he's my favorite teacher, my favorite acting teacher. And his class was mostly in comedy. I had some monologue that I was doing, and you just feel that it's bad. You just feel like, this is not good.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it good, but you still are kind of hoping that your professor is going to like it. And I finished it, and he just said, well, that was shitty. And I just loved him so much more in that moment, because it freed me up. In the way he said it, and the fact that he's telling me made me think that he thought I could do better, but he's acknowledging the fact that it was bad. We all know it was bad.
Yeah.
And if he told me it was good, I wouldn't trust him either.
Right.
So that, to me, I just always remember that, because it opened me up so much, and you gave me freedom. But I will say that I probably am guilty of then trying to muscle my way into making something good when I'm, if a scene goes badly, if an audition goes badly, if, something with my kids go badly, like, let me read more parenting books, and then I will be a better parent. Let me make sure that I'm meditating every day, so I'm not going to react or whatever it is. I definitely am the person who's like trying to get I want to muscle my way through, and I want to get as much like outside input to make sure, instead of trusting myself. I definitely am guilty of that.
Well, I don't know about guilty. Like I don't.
Okay.
I don't like that word there.
Yeah,
but how many parenting books have you read?
I probably can't count.
Yeah, a million.
Yeah,
a million.
1 million, exactly the number of schools I went to.
There's that holy grail of the parenting book. It's like every 2 or 3 years, there's everybody's got to read this book, and that's the one that's going to make your kids trauma-proof or whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But there is going to be failure and tragedy in people's lives, and they are even my kids. And that whom
I got to meet.
Did you meet them? Did they come to set?
Yes.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was bad. I shouldn't have brought
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, you're thinking that's a failure.
Never bring your children to set. I forgot that they
were
came
really
to set.
cute. I remember. Was one named Kid?
Yeah.
I remember marveling at the fact that there was a kid named Kid.
Yeah.
Very cute. A good name.
Yeah.
That was your son?
He just graduated college this week. Kid,
congratulations.
Kid Miller.
Aw.
Yeah. And my daughter is Madeline West.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Weston
Miller. I always wanted to call him Kid, but he still goes by Miller. Maybe one day.
Okay.
Because Kid Duchovny is kind of a good handle.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cowboy or something.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know. How are you doing on those questions?
Oh, I only put one down. Should I do it? We started talking, and then
try another one. With the ADHD, can you talk and write
That's the hard part.
Time? Okay,
so it doesn't have to be about failure.
No.
It can just be about anything. But is it questions I'll have to answer?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Let me think.
While you think, I'll say that when I did direct you, I wish that after a take I had said, "Well, that was shitty," and knowing that that's your favorite kind of response.
That was my favorite.
I brought this. Don't look up yet. You're writing, but where is this? I found this online.
Oh my God! Well, now it's just me, but yeah. Oh my gosh!
It looks like I'm restraining you. You look pissed off.
That was my warming code on set for so many. It became so.
You look very skeptical. I don't know if you're getting that anywhere, but she looks very skeptical, and I look like I'm restraining her over here from going after somebody.
Well, that is like my go-to look. I once did a film, and I had like a family. I was married, and I had like 3 children, and I was thinking thoughts in my mind as an actor, thinking like, "Oh, what a beautiful day! I'm so grateful and lucky to have this family. My husband's playing basketball with my kids.
This is your character.
This is my character's mind, right?" And those were my inner thoughts as the actor. Yeah. And the director came up and he said, What are you thinking about? And I didn't want to tell him because I was just kind of, I don't know. I just felt personal and embarrassed. I don't know. I was like, well, what are you seeing?
What do you see?
He said, "You look sinister."
Sinister.
I think because I have like deep set eyes, and I tend to like furrow my brow. That's like my go-to, like skepticism, sinister. Yeah. So you were just getting that. It's just my go-to. It's my resting, skeptical, sinister face.
Resting sinister face. I had an experience, one of the first films I did. I think you can just shuffle them.
Okay.
Shuffle them. I think I almost got fired from it. And which is
from a job,
a movie.
A movie.
Yeah. And I know that they weren't particularly pleased with what I was doing. And in this which I think you have a story about that as well that I've seen from the first season of Bones, right? Where you feel like, oh my God, they don't like me.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, there were several things that happened on Bones, but so first seasons are insane. We were working insane hours, longer than just a normal series. So, you're working 14 to 16-hour days, and then I had to memorize the lines, and so I'd be staying up late at night memorizing lines. I would joke that I would go home and just cry in a bathtub every night because I was just so overwhelmed. I'd come to set, and I would, be trying to remember the lines that I got no sleep. Then trying to remember the lines that I had memorized the day before, and then I had them in my head, and couldn't remember them. I'd be on set, and I'd look around, and I'd see the whole crew looking at me, kind of waiting for me to know my lines, to say my lines, which was complicated dialogue. And I would remember a friend who's a crew member who I knew from other jobs would say, it's told me that crews hate it when actors forget their lines. Like, it's such a pain.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, if an actor forget, I mean, I have a lot of compassion, having done this myself, having experienced where I couldn't be working harder to learn these things and still not being able to get it. But I also at the same time can get annoyed.
Crews hate it when actors haven't memorized their lines.
Yes,
I think they can tell the difference between somebody who's having a moment and somebody who hasn't, given the respect. Of the other working people on this set that have families they have to go back to. Yeah. And they're not making magic, and they don't give a fuck about the magic. Yeah,
they're here. They have a job. Right. They're working insane hours.
And your job is to know your lines.
And my job is to know my lines and to know what I'm supposed to do in the scene. Yeah. And I'd look around and I'd see that, and then the room would start to close in.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Fight, flight.
I mean, I didn't know I was having panic attacks, but I was basically having panic attacks at the time. Yeah. And then just trying to, and that's a lot, keeping things on your shoulder. And so one time, Hart Hanson, who's the creator of the show.
A friend of mine.
A friend of yours. Yeah. Who you met. Did you meet when you directed Bones? Or did you know each other before?
No, Hart lived up in Malibu, where I lived. And I think I met him when I was getting coffee. And he had been a big fan of the X-Files. And I think he had maybe wanted to write on that. But I'd never met him before that. Yeah. And I just loved him as a person. Yeah. He's the best. And we were just talking, and then at one point he just said, "You want to come direct a show?" And I was like, Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, sure, I'll come direct a show.
You're good at it too.
Well,
I remember you being very good at it.
You know why I want to get back to your story, but I was thinking why I said yes. Because I never thought of myself as a director for hire,
Right.
I've directed stuff that I'm in. I've directed stuff that I've written. That's stuff that I think of. But I thought at that point, oh, how interesting to direct something, just direct,
right. You just come in. That's all you have to do.
I'm just working. I'm not, forgive me, it's not coming from my heart.
It's not a passion.
It's not. I'm just going to solve this little Rubik's Cube here and walk away. Because in TV, the director has to walk away. You get, I think, 2 or 3 days of cutting, of post. And then Steve, I forget his name. Steve Beers comes in and recuts everything that you did. So I had 2 or 3 days.
Or Steve and Nathan, probably.
I think it was
Steve Beers was our, line producer.
I think it was
Steve and Nathan, probably.
But he was kind of like the post showrunner.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm sure he did a great job. But you're not attached to it in a way. And I thought, and I had a really good time. And it was a lesson to me to try to go into every scene and just go, how do I help these people be the best they can be? How do we make this scene the best it can be?
Yeah.
But not like break anybody's ass and try to go into overtime and,
Right.
not like that at all.
We've got multiple crane shots.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoyed it. This is going to sound like really wrong. I enjoyed not caring that much.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, it makes complete sense.
Does that sound horrible?
No.
Okay.
There's a joy in putting all of everything and your passion into something, but you're never going to feel that way as a director coming in to a television show.
Yeah.
If you are part of the process and you're directing the show, that's maybe different. But most TV directors, they come in and they're like really skillful at knowing getting things done quickly.
Yeah.
Knowing how to work with actors. But honestly, I mean, did you get a lot of acting notes? I didn't get a ton of acting notes from directors who come in just in general as episodic directors.
Well, this is interesting because it was a bit of a pet peeve of mine when I was doing the X-Files, not so much the other shows that I've done, but as with Bones, it's episodic, but every episode is pretty high drama. It can be life and death.
Right.
So I would have directors, and sometimes the directors would come on and they'd know they had a great script. And this was like, on the X-Files, this could happen, like, holy shit, this is a great script.
Right.
And they really wanted to kill it, So they could
win an Emmy for
They
this.
were dangerous.
Yeah.
Those guys were dangerous.
Right.
So often they would say, we've never seen Mulder like this before. And I'd say, yeah, as about 10 other times. 10 other times we've seen Mulder like this before. And then there was like
a very special Mulder episode. Yeah.
And then there was stuff like, we did an episode in the first season where the gist of it was Mulder's afraid of fire, and he's got to go into this building that's on fire, and where there's a guy who's kind of like making him think of fire and really, kryptonite and weakening him.
Wow.
And I remember, like, in the middle of the episode, I had this thought. I said, and I think I went up to Chris Carter, who wrote that episode, I believe, and I said, didn't Mulder and Scully watch a building burn down in the pilot? And I think Mulder was fairly cool with it. It didn't bother him. I was like, this kind of stuff, where you're going, you're kind of the curator of the character, and sometimes you have to go, I can't actually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't. What's funny is I had a similar situation where first season of Bones, I'm very cool with a snake that's there. And then second season or third season, they have me terrified of snakes.
Right.
But little me was like, well, they know that I was near a snake in episode 418 and season 1 or whatever it was. So they must, I just made that I was scared. In my mind, I made it that I was scared of small snakes. Because the other ones are small snakes. And so I didn't even, now I would absolutely go to the showrunner.
What's the term for fear of snakes?
I don't know. I know coulrophobia is a fear of clowns.
That's different.
That's all I know.
Clown snake or clownfish. What's the fear of clownfish? My daughter has a fear of snakes. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
And it's real. I mean, it overcomes her.
I'm not great with snakes, but it's like
just
not
the tiny ones. It's the tiny ones.
The tiny ones move quickly. I feel like the tiny ones are scarier than the big ones.
They
personally.
could be.
I'm with Brennan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So wait, bring me back.
Okay, so I'm in my trailer first season. I'm having panic attacks.
But what's very interesting is the what you mentioned, like the tunnel vision feeling.
Oh my God.
Because we talk about failure a lot on this podcast, but we usually talk about things or experiences or events, but there's the physiological response to something that's failing or something that's going wrong.
The panic,
the shame,
the shame
is a big deal.
Yeah, it's probably shame. I mean, the panic is part of the shame. But I think it is
what's
shame.
At the heart of it. I think at the heart of it, what you're saying is, I'm exposed here as, because you mentioned the crew. So they're all seeing that I can't do it. They're all seeing that I'm bad. They're all seeing that I didn't work hard enough.
My true self, if you will, my failing self,
right?
That I can't do it. They're, it's like imposter syndrome kind of thing. Like, well, they all know that I'm just faking this.
Right.
Yeah, it's very exposing. I think it is shame. And so I was feeling that. I mean, I had been late. We were filming in Whittier. There was like a terrible accident. I'd been late. You don't realize that like the studio sees the production report and all they see is like Emily Deschanel arrived 30 minutes late. And
I never thought about that.
Oh, did you never think of it at all, ever?
Only when I started directing. I was like, hey, these fuckers are late.
Right. No, I was very much aware. Maybe after this conversation that I had with Hart, I became very aware of like, okay, they know when I step into the hair and makeup trailer. They know exactly what time. They know if I've caused it. They know if anyone's caused a delay. And becoming a producer on the show also made me very aware. Yeah. Like anyway, after this conversation, I was never late again. But he, Hart knocked on my trailer door, and which was, not a usual thing. He wasn't knocking on my door often.
It's like the cops knocking on the door.
I thought it might be the cops, the TV cops. Yeah. I was going to get arrested. But anyways, it basically he took me aside and said, the studio is concerned has concerns about your work.
What does that mean?
They said that I was late and unprepared. And that to me, I get emotional just thinking about it now because it probably is shame. It was like, you are unprofessional. Oh my God. It's so funny. Like I literally just gave a speech and I mentioned this in the speech and now is it like, no, sorry.
No, don't apologize.
I'm a dramatic actor.
No, what I think is if I could just stop there for a moment is it's your self-respect. It's your, it's like they're saying you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's not even about acting at that point. It's like you don't care about other people. Yeah. Is what I'm hearing there. Yeah. And that's not you. So you're being misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think,
and that
a
hurts.
lot of it.
That hurts.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was feeling, I grew up, my dad had such a strong work ethic. Like do
you know your dad directed me?
Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I knew that years ago. Yeah. I think when we worked together, that's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad directed you. You directed me.
Yeah.
I have to direct one of your children. Is that how it works?
Direct my daughter.
Are they actors?
My daughter is, yeah. Yeah. You'll have to direct my daughter.
I would love to direct your daughter.
She's terrific.
I've hardly directed, but
I think you should.
I would love to. Yeah. I just don't have the opportunities to. I mean,
yet.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
but
we'll get there. It might be in the cards here. Is it in the cards? Okay, so Hart,
the literal cards
Hart
and
is
the
knocking
metaphorical.
on your door.
Hart is knocking on my door.
The kaleidoscopic refractions off of his glasses.
And he says they have, and I was a wreck. I mean, my friend was visiting me at the time. She's like, I didn't think human beings had projectile tears.
Oh, right, yeah.
In cartoons when they have projectile tears. I took it so hard, and I was such a fragile, person at the time. I mean, I got hardened up doing that show for so long. I was such a, I was not sleeping. I was like so stressed out. I was already like, I'm an actor. I'm an emotional person. So I was just beside myself. But yeah, they took me aside and said that. And then the next day we got picked up.
Oh, really?
For the back nine.
So did Hart say, okay, now we're in this process. So like, how do we address these issues without making you break down and feel miserable? Yeah. So he gave me support. That's how I got someone to help me run the lines with me. Okay. So there's a practical response.
Then they were like, you need to go to your trailer, because I would never go to my trailer except unless I was changing or whatever.
I love being in my trailer.
I ended up loving it. And they gave me a bigger trailer. I just had a small trailer when I first started.
That's why you didn't want to be in it.
David Boreanaz had a big trailer. Right. And they was not in my contract, but they gave me a bigger trailer. Because I was also there was no scenes I was not in that they weren't filming on a double up day. So, you had double up days, I'm sure.
You mean 2 units?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
2 units. So I'd go to the next episode and they'd film scenes that I wasn't in. So they realized that they could write more scenes for other people. They did a lot of things to help me not be a nervous wreck.
Well, once you got picked up and you've established the two main characters, then they could service the kind of orbiting characters.
Yeah,
more.
and they're so good. We had
Yeah.
great actors, and they realized how they could utilize them more.
Right.
And they also realized, you don't put 8 people on a lab platform scene, with 8 pages. That is
I
not.
remember trying to shoot one like that. I was like, how are we going to shoot this? Let's.
You were just season 2,
Let's get let's get a tight 8 over here. Can you all just face the same direction?
We definitely had late nights like that where a director would be like, I think you're all just standing looking at the body, from this angle. It would be 2 a.m. and on a Saturday.
And all the actors are like, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
eventually.
That's exactly right.
The first episode after the pilot, I remember the director wasn't doing that extreme of a thing, but I think he took us, he just kind of said, okay, you can stand here, you can stand there. And several of us had never done a series before where someone just tells you, okay, you stand there. And you get to a point where you're like,
just
great, tell me where to go,
Block
and I will do it. And if I have
I'll make it work.
issues, I will tell you, but mostly I'll just make it work. And we were offended, basically, that this director had told us where to stand. And then we realized, a few episodes later, that it was a gift that we were given. Yeah.
What I would try to do if I was faced with a scene where there were 5 people talking.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
As a director?
No, as an actor.
Oh, uh-huh.
I would say, I'm going to go stand away from everybody.
So you get a single?
Well, not just a single, but just my coverage is done. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stand here and look everywhere.
I'm gonna be in the corner with
the
water cooler.
I think Mulder would go over there.
Yeah.
And everybody else is, because he's an outsider. Everybody else is over there. All this, yeah.
You justified it.
I justified it.
Yeah.
So Hart kind of worked with you. So he kind of held your hand through that in a nice way. That's good.
Yeah. And Hart helped me find ways to, be better at my, get my job done in terms of learning my lines and remembering them. And a lot of it was having downtime or having, some scene that I'm not in, etc. So he's just a good one. We were so lucky.
Well, you know why? You know why he's so good?
Because he's Canadian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. But it's true. I know. Was there ever any kind of a recurrence of that tunnely feeling?
I mean, daily.
Daily, right? Yeah, because it does kind of come back, but you learn the flare-ups are smaller and smaller, and you know that you've been through it. You're like, I can exist within this.
For me, as an actor, it got smaller and smaller. For me now, as a person, I feel like my anxiety is like now in the last 6 months has been insane. So I can't say that it, in my life, my anxiety is just
as a parent.
dissipated.
You mean as a parent and as
just everything in my life. But yes, as a parent, I will wake up in the middle of the night and be. I mean,
let me give you the good news.
Yeah,
never ends.
Wait, are both of your children out of college?
Just now.
That's so long ago.
But still, I mean, I will continue to worry forever.
Yeah, so. No, I know the job never ends. It's not like they're 18.
Not that they're so meriting of worry, but it's just
the nature
something. And as a mother, even more so, I'm sure. You have 2 boys. Is that right?
Yeah. Look at you. Did research.
It's in here somewhere. But I thought, how very interesting, because there's a lot of focus these days on boys, like just recently, like young men. I'm going off to do a movie that kind of attacks this. But there's every day, it seems, there's an article I'm reading, like what's wrong with young men.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do you think about, well, as a woman, you're raising boys.
Yeah.
You're married. Your husband is involved, obviously. And
very involved.
Yes, very involved. And especially with boys, this is modeling, that aspect of manhood, whatever it is. But have you been struck just in the time that you've been raising these 2 boys of watching in the culture in general, of there being this kind of if not a problem with boys, then a focus on what's wrong with boys.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you mentioned that. And having read so many parenting books, I have parenting books, 1 million, as we know. But I have not read 1,000,001, which are the ones about the boys. I do have books that are specifically about boys, and I think, and the articles and things like that, it gives me anxiety. It gives me anxiety
Right.
to. I've read a little bit, but I haven't taken a deep dive there. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm so glad. I wanted to have girls when I was younger, when I was a kid, and then I babysat for 2 boys, and I just loved them, and so I'm so glad I have boys.
Oh, sure.
Somebody said to me, boys need their moms, but they hate that they need their moms. And I find that to be very much like a thing, in my relationship with my sons. Like, there's something that I can't provide for them that their dad provides for them.
Absolutely.
And and sometimes because I was close to my mom growing up, and I just think, kids are close to their moms. So, I'm there more than my husband is,
right.
But I mean, it fluctuates depending on what we're each doing work-wise, but sometimes, they'll run to him instead of me. And that's a hard thing for me, just because, yeah, it is. I mean, it was started with like working so hard when they were really young that like I missed first steps. I missed certain things.
I wanted to ask about that you gave birth to both boys on
the set of Bones.
You did not. You just used that great set. Perfect set to give birth at.
I was working 12 hours before I went to labor. But I did not give birth on set.
How did they shoot around that?
Well, so my first son, I was due in the middle of the season, and I asked for 6 weeks off, and Hart, showrunner, who we talked about before, he gave me Canadian. Mm-hmm. As you'll see, he gave me 12 weeks off. So
Canadian.
He gave me extra time.
That's almost Scandinavian.
No, Scandinavian would be a year for each parent, maybe 2 years, I think.
And paid your salary.
Leave for a year, I know, at least a year in Sweden, because I know some Swedes.
That's fucking civilized.
I know. I think I'd go a little bit crazy with a baby. And I mean, I guess if both of you, both parents get that. Yeah. So no, I thought it would be lovely.
Yeah. So wait, let me just imagine.
Yeah.
I'm shooting you. You're big, right?
I was pregnant. My character was pregnant.
Oh, your character was pregnant?
Yes, both times. Okay. I told Hart, I was like, I'm not going to be one of those tiny pregnant people. You can't hide. You're not going to be able to hide it. And you definitely could not hide it.
Jillian got pregnant the first season, and we had to shoot.
Oh my God, the first season?
Yeah, and we didn't shoot her for being pregnant. We shot for not. Yeah.
Yeah, the first season is hard. We were in our 6th season, maybe, something like that. And so, but the Booth and Brennan are my character and David Boreanaz' character were not together. They decided to put us together. There was discussion whether I have I have a baby on my own.
So they put you together because you were pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's interesting that it drives story.
Yeah.
Interesting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting.
What about your energy? That
must
have been so hard.
Yeah. Well, I first, in both pregnancies, asked to limit my hours to 12 hours a day. But when you think about that, that's a long day. But that's limited for an actor, especially an actress.
Well, if you're saying door to door, 12, then it's
not door to door, but arriving. But I mean, I have hair and makeup for an hour before we start filming. So it's like, and then you have an hour for lunch. I meant an hour from when I arrive, whatever.
Yeah.
So, which is a long day in every regard, but it's a shorter day for a TV series. So I asked for that, but then I had some complications with my second pregnancy, and so I limited it to 10 hours a day. But I would go to my trailer and take a nap before I drove home because I'd be too tired to drive home a lot of times.
Is this your handwriting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Your handwriting is good.
It might be slightly better than yours, but it's not great.
When was success a negative thing?
I don't know. That was a terrible question. I shouldn't have asked.
I can't get rid of it.
It's because it's a bad question.
You don't have to answer it.
It's a good general question, but it's like on the spot. Like say something funny, and then you don't know what you're going to say.
Right.
When was success a feel? I mean, what kind of success? I mean, it affected relationships. You know, like a boyfriend I had early on in Bones. Like, I don't think it was helpful.
Really?
Yeah.
Your success?
Yeah.
You felt threatened by that? Or you were just so busy?
Both, I think. Yeah. And that's me guessing about certain things.
Right.
But yeah, I think that it was both. You know, you also, it's like, I think, you know, that guy in particular thought I was like avoiding him. I'm like, I'm literally working nonstop. When I'm not sleeping, I'm working.
Right.
Like, there's just no time for me to see you. Like, I'm not avoiding you. I am just trying to survive. So there was that. That was one thing. That wasn't meant to be anyway. But yeah, I'd say that's probably
what about within the family? Was there ever a sibling rivalry, or your mom's an actress, your dad's a director? I mean, like everybody's kind of.
I don't think there's any sibling rivalry where I don't think my sister was ever, you know, envious of me being on Bones. No. I don't think that was ever a thing. And we're pretty good. I mean, it's kind of weird to both be actors. You have a sister. Do you have other siblings?
I have an older brother and a younger sister, and neither of them wanted to be actors.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't start acting until I was like 26, 27.
Wow,
so.
Yeah.
So it was a late
you
decision.
Did other things. I was
getting all those advanced degrees.
You were very educated,
all those
overly
honorary
educated.
degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, I think everyone's just, my sister and I are so different too. Well, I think like maybe twice we auditioned for the same part.
Really? Yeah.
One time she got the part and I was really loving that part.
Oh,
it was really good part, but she was the person right for that part.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So we're different enough that we don't really have that.
Yeah.
But
you pull for each other.
Yeah, I'm really so proud of her. Yeah. I mean, when she started New Girl too, I watched every episode of that show.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. And I mean, I visited her on set and would get teary-eyed. I was so proud of her. She's just so funny and good. She'd be improvising things. And anyway, but yeah.
Okay.
No, that was not, I'd say pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is a card called Stupid Questions.
Okay, I like stupid questions.
Is it harder to get a fake honorary degree or a real one?
I think it's harder to get a real one. For sure.
You don't have to answer this one. This just makes me laugh. Is there failure?
Is there failure?
Is there failure?
Yeah. Or are you
That's the question.
Are you positing the question of that what we think of failure is actually a success?
It's just a question.
It's just a process.
Yeah. It's kind of just a short circuiting kind of a question.
Yeah.
What did you forget today?
Oh, I'll tell you. I didn't charge my car. Well, no, that's not true. I charged my car and I didn't check it. And so I had to take my husband's car and then charge it.
Oh.
On the way.
Okay.
So, but in terms of what I forget, I was thinking this is where I go to, because I do have ADHD and I literally forget things all the time. So I go to physical things that I forgot. But it could mean, what did I forget to bring up today? Yeah.
Or it could mean, in my world, it's more like, and this is too kind of self-flagellating, but the idea is there's so many things I have to forget in order to just go on with my day, because there's so much shit happening.
Like forgiving, and forgive.
Forget that they're putting this draconian bill through Congress right now.
Right. Yes, 100%.
So every day we wake up and we have to forget a number of things in order to live our lives.
Yes. So sometimes it feels like even more and more these days.
Well, you were talking about your anxiety. So
yeah.
That it was growing in the last 6 months. It's been, that way. So it can mean that as well. And I find it an interesting question to ask myself because, we all have to be callous in a certain way. We can't have compassion for the world every moment of our lives. It's paralyzing. So it was more.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it can be overwhelming. And I think having children, it actually can be helpful to me Because you have to go on.
And
you have to make sure that your kids know, hey, all these things in the world are happening,
Right.
but we're going to be okay.
Right. And they have to have their childhood, which is not involved in the budget and anything like that,
Right.
and nor should it be.
Yeah.
It's in a way as painful as much pain as those activities are bringing the world in general. They're not the reality of being a child.
Yeah, I think my kids are probably growing up faster than they should.
Well, that's the phone stuff. So I don't even get.
They
me
don't
started
have
with
phones.
They will.
Yeah, eventually.
They're gonna have John Wick on their phone before you know it. This is your handwriting. What have you learned from failure? What have I learned from failure? What have you learned from failure?
Sure. What have you learned from failure? I mean, I don't know.
Well, what I like to think I learned is humility, vulnerability, enthusiasm, that you can go on, accountability, all the good things, like nothing from success. Success, you learn arrogance, complacency,
right,
paranoia, don't want to lose this thing.
Yeah.
But failure makes you, I think it grows your brain, whereas success probably shrinks it. I'm not a doctor. True. Maybe in your, because you honorary doctorate, perfect. Honorary doctorate. People consider you an expert. At what do they consider you an expert at? I read that people consider you an expert.
What? Maybe they think I'm an expert on bones because of bones.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on bones.
Did you ever take the gruesome work home with you? Was it weird to be hugely pregnant and looking at this gruesome stuff?
Early on, before I was ever pregnant, I feel like it took a toll a bit dealing with death and murder.
It did? It did?
Yeah. Yeah. Even a lighthearted show. Like, our show was never too dark. I keep trying and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It was never dark, but it just, dealing with murder, even fake murder.
I never took that stuff home.
Oh, you're good.
I never had nightmares, never anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm a psychopath. It's possible. What haven't you been asked that you always wish you'd been asked?
Oh, I don't know.
Forget that one's stupid.
Can I juggle?
It was actually a stupid question.
I can't.
It was a stupid. Can you juggle?
I have learned how to juggle.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes the hardest empathy is for ourselves. Who said that?
Me. I don't think. I also, before I had to say that, I'm not sure if you call it empathy, if it's for yourself. It might just be self-compassion. I do very
well. This is one of the things I talked about with Peter Singer was empathy not versus necessarily, but empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And we kind of had this discussion, and he has felt this way in his work, where empathy is kind of an exhaustible resource in a way, like to feel for one person and feel for another person. Now I'm feeling for three people, and I'm like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And compassion is more of a feeling that you can scale. Like, I can have compassion for many, many more people.
Yeah.
It's less an emotion. Empathy is like this emotional outreach.
It's exhausting.
Right. Compassion is more is I don't know if I'm being clear on it, but we talk a lot about empathy these days.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk about compassion as well.
Yeah.
Because I think empathy scares people because it's exhausting. And you go, well, fuck, I can only take care of my little world here. That's all I can do, because otherwise I'm going to get stressed out. And compassion is not like that. Compassion, it seems a little more logical, a little less emotional.
I think that's true. And you don't have to, empathy means you're putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You are imagining yourself living. That's what we do as actors.
That's what you said at BU.
Yeah. So, and I think I chose to speak about empathy because I think it relates to us as actors and what we do. And we have to basically have empathy for a character and then, embody that character, or at least give the illusion of embodying that character, right? But compassion, I think, is more scalable, and I think it's also less exhausting and
it seems like it
exhausted.
might lead to action as well. Empathy kind of leads to emotion.
Right. Yeah.
Compassion might lead to action. Let's say. Talk about your podcast on the Bones Rewatch.
Okay. My friend Carla Gallo and
Yeah, I've worked with Carla.
Yes, that's right. You worked with her in
Californication.
Yeah. Oh my God.
She's great.
She played like a porn star on that, right?
Yeah.
I think.
She was more in the Charlie Runkle world, less the Hank Moody world, but she's great. Okay. She's great.
We became fast friends working on, but she did 33 episodes of the show. She was never a series regular, but she was a recurring character and we became friends. And so we are doing a rewatch podcast of Bones called Boneheads.
So you're actually rewatching every episode?
Yes. And some of the times I'm just watching them for the first time because I had watched a certain amount, especially in the first season. But
do you watch them together or you'll just go off and watch it yourself and
on our own usually, but we have watched together.
And what's the experience like watching yourself from how many years ago is this now?
20 years.
Yeah.
20
It's almost like home movies in a way, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. What I find, I actually, speaking of empathy and compassion, I have a lot more empathy for myself. Like when I would watch that before, my husband would call it hate watching if I ever watched myself. I mean, I hate it. I hate watching myself. In everything you do. Yeah, everything.
Fantastic. Sounds very healthy. Do you feel the
same way?
No.
Oh, good for you.
I don't.
Good for you.
I don't. I mean, I sometimes hate myself.
I'm so envious.
But sometimes I kind of dig it.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, that was good. That was good.
I want to be like that.
Thanks so much for listening to Fail Better. If you haven't yet, now is a great time to subscribe to Lemonada Premium. You'll get bonus content like my thoughts on conversations with guests including Alec Baldwin and Rob Lowe. Just hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, or for all other podcast apps, head to lemonadapremium.com to subscribe. That's lemonadapremium.com. Fail Better is a production of Lemonada Media in coordination with King Baby. It is produced by Keegan Zema, Aria Bracci, and Donnie Matias. Our engineer is Brian Castillo. Our SVP of Weekly is Steve Nelson. Our VP of New Content is Rachel Neal. Special thanks to Carl Ackerman, Tom Kupinski, and Brad Davidson. The show is executive produced by Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, and me, David Duchovny. The music is also by me and my band, the lovely Colin Lee, Pat McCusker, Mitch Stewart, Davis Rowan, and Sebastian Modak. You can find us online at Lemonada Media, and you can find me at David Duchovny. Follow Fail Better wherever you get your podcasts, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.